Okay, I don't know why my computer stopped, but I guess this is part four. So hopefully we'll get more of the debate in before my computer cuts stops again. I don't know why I did that. Sorry. I just rewinded a few seconds so we can get the question again. We're talking about American citizens apparently smuggling fentanyl through the southern border.
Of fentanyl is seized at official border crossings, and 57% of the smugglers are U.S. citizens. How would you stop fentanyl brought into the country, mostly by U.S. citizens, through ports of entry?
There's two sides to this, and we have to be very honest about it. One is we do have to seal that southern border. Building the wall is not enough. They are building cartel financed tunnels underneath that wall. Semi trucks can drive through them. We have to use our own military to seal the Swiss cheese of a southern border. But we also have to be honest. There's a demand side problem in this country, too, a mental health epidemic. I met family in Iowa, two parents, Kathy and Derek. They lost their son, Sebastian, 17 years old. He bought Percocet on Snapchat, and then he died. Why did he die? Because it was laced with fentanyl. That is closer to bioterrorism, not a drug overdose. That is poisoning. So it is our job to make sure that never happens. But it's also our job to make sure that 17-year-olds don't turn to Percocet via Snapchat. We have to bring back mental health care in this country, not with pumping pharmaceuticals, but with faith-based approaches that restore purpose and meaning in the next generation of Americans. Many of them are getting it through social media. And this isn't a Republican point or a Democrat point, but if you're 16 years old or under, you should not be using an addictive social media product, period. This is something that we can both agree on, and we can revive both the mental health of this country while stopping the fentanyl epidemic that will kill more people this year than who died on 9/11. And I refuse to be a passive bystander sitting in the White House like the hollowed out husk of a current president we have. We will step up and address this problem to stand for Americans and our children.
That was a good answer to the question. I don't know if that was a dig at President Trump in the beginning when he talked about the border wall not being enough. I mean, at least he's started the wall because nothing else seemed to be working, and um, it's it's been a good deterrent. The only reason why we're facing issues with our border right now is because of the current person in the White House, like he said, that removed President Trump's immigration policies, and now we're being completely overrun. So that's the issue we're facing now, and it's not because the wall isn't is not that great of a deterrent. Um, but he is. I never thought about the tunnels underground. I think I did hear before that they built these underground tunnels, um, um, so they can cross over illegally. So overall, I think that was a really good answer. Um, and yeah, I agree. So I don't know. Maybe we need to build an underground wall now for the tunnels. I don't know. I think that'll be a lot trickier, but something we have to consider. Um, yeah, don't know how they would address that.
Everything he said, I agree with. That is why, as commander in chief, I'm going to use the U.S. military to go after the Mexican drug cartels. They are killing our people. And the stories that I've seen in Florida, we had an infant, 18 months. Parents rented an Airbnb. And apparently, the people that had rented it before were using drugs. The infant was crawling, the toddler was crawling on the carpet and ingested fentanyl residue and died. Are we just going to sit here and let this happen, this carnage happen in our country? I am not going to do that. So I guarantee you on day one, this border is going to be a day one issue for me as president. We're going to declare it a national emergency. Yes, we'll build the wall. We'll do remain in Mexico. But those Mexican drug cartels are going to be treated like the foreign terrorist organizations.
Vice President Pence. All right, Vice President Pence. We're going to move on to a different issue. Hold on, sir. Vice President Pence. Just last month, Vice President Pence, you said if elected elected, you would repeal all Obamacare mandates. However, you also made that same promise in 2016. And at that time, Trump-Pence had congressional majorities for at least the first 2 years. And you did not deliver on that promise. So Obamacare, right now, it is more popular than ever. Why should Americans trust you if you become president to fix that? Or is Obamacare here to stay?
Well, first, let me speak to the mass shootings issue, and then I'll answer that question. It's an important one, Dana. Look, I'm someone that believes that justice delayed is justice denied. And as a father of three, as a grandfather of three beautiful little girls, I am sick and tired of these mass shootings happening in the United States of America. And if I'm president of the United States, I'm going to go to the Congress of the United States, and we're going to pass a federal expedited death penalty for anyone involved in a mass shooting so that they will meet their fate in months, not years. It is unconscionable that the Parkland shooter, Ron, is actually going to spend the rest of his life behind bars in Florida. That's not justice. We have to mete out justice and send a message to these would-be killers that you are not going to live out your days behind bars.
I
You're going to
appreciate
meet
that.
justice in this system.
But does that mean Obamacare is here to stay? Fried rice. Stir-fried noodles.
I like fried rice, but just not right now. Right now, I want to get back to the debate. And yeah, Pence, answer the question.
Well, thank you for reiterating the question, because I'd love to answer it. Look,
You got
I think it's one of the choices here. You know, my former running mate, Donald Trump, actually has a plan to start to consolidate more power in Washington, D.C., consolidate more power in the executive branch. If I'm president of the United States, it's my intention to make the federal government smaller by returning to the states those resources and programs that are rightfully theirs under the 10th Amendment of the Constitution. That means all Obamacare funding, all housing funding, all HHS funding, all of it goes back to the states. We'll shut down the Federal Department of Education. We'll allow states to innovate. We're going to revive federalism in America, and states are going to help bring America back.
Obamacare staying, but Stu, go ahead.
May I remind everyone to keep within their time frame so that we can get as many questions in as possible. This question for Governor DeSantis. Over 26 million Americans don't have insurance coverage. Governor DeSantis, 2.5 million of them are in your state. That's worse than the national average. Can Americans trust you on this?
Well, I think this is a symptom of our overall economic decline. Everything has gotten more expensive. You see insurance rates are going through the roof. People that are going to get groceries. I spoke with a woman in Iowa, and she said, you know, for the first time in my life, I'm having to take things out of my grocery cart when I get to the checkout line because the total goes up so quickly. So this is very real, and people are hurting out there. So we've got to address the underlying problem with Bidenomics, the overspending, taking all Biden's rules and regulations. I'm going to throw them in the trash can on day one. You're not going to have to worry about that. We're going to open up all of our energy. We will be energy dominant in this country. That will lower your gas prices. And what we need to do with healthcare is recognize our healthcare is putting patients at the back of the bus. We have big pharma, big insurance, and big government, and we need to tackle that and have more power for the people and the doctor-patient relationship.
Governor, why is your record in Florida on insurance worse than the national average?
Our state's a dynamic state. We've got a lot of folks that come. Of course, we've had a population boom. We also don't have a lot of welfare benefits in Florida. You know, we're basically saying this is a field of dreams. You can do well in the state, but we're not going to be like California and have massive numbers of people on government programs without work requirements. We believe you work and you got to do that. And so that goes for all the welfare benefits. And you know what that's done, Stuart? Our unemployment rate is the lowest amongst any big state. We have the highest GDP growth amongst any big state. And even CNBC, no fan of mine, ranked Florida the #1 economy in America.
On the topic of healthcare, Governor Haley, healthcare is the leading cause of bankruptcy for American families, accounting for 2/3 personal bankruptcies. As president, how you protect Americans who get sick from financial ruin?
First of all, how can we be the best country in the world and have the most expensive health care in the world? We have an issue. My mom was in the hospital, and when she was in the hospital, they tried to bring her a couple of Tylenol, and she said, I don't need it. And they said, honey, go ahead and take it because you're paying for it anyway. Why is it that when we got the bill, the insurance company in the hospital negotiated the bill for her without her having anything to do with it? When I am president, we will break all of it, from the insurance company to the hospitals to the doctor's offices to the PBMs to the pharmaceutical companies. We will make it all transparent, because when you do that, you will realize that's what the problem is. Second thing is, you've got to deal with tort law. The doctors don't give you the 10 tests because they want to. It's because of the 90% chance they'll get sued. And then we need to bring competition back to healthcare, get rid of certificate of need systems, and make sure that they can compete. We have to put the patient in the driver's seat. They've been in the back seat for way too long. And once we give the patient the ability to decide their healthcare, deciding which plan they want, that is when we will see magic happen. But we're going to have to make every part of the industry open up and show us where their warts are, because they all have them, and we need to fix this on behalf of the
Governor
American
Burgum,
people.
in 30 seconds, do you have a better way in 30 seconds?
Well, yes, we're not talking about the real problem ever. We talk about why do we have the most expensive healthcare in the world? It's because the federal government got involved the same way they did with EVs, and they said, we're going to subsidize a particular kind of software back in 2008 under Obama, and they said, hey, we're going to do this. It's going to make everyone more productive. All of you that are watching have been to a doctor's office when the doctor's got his back to you and their hands on a keyboard. The only industry in the world that's ever absorbed $1 trillion of IT and became less productive, they saw less patients per day, is U.S. healthcare, because they were subsidizing a certain kind of technology. It wasn't about improving healthcare. It was about picking winners and losers. Every time the federal government's involved, whether it's higher education, healthcare, or now the auto industry, things get more expensive and less competitive.
That was a great transition, because we are going to move on the future of education in America.
Okay, but before they do that, I'm not an expert on healthcare, but from what I've learned over the years about our healthcare system, it has been broken and it's still very broken. It most likely has gotten worse over the years because, as the candidates mentioned, cost has gone up for everything: groceries, gas, and health insurance included. And so, yeah, now if you're on Medicaid like me, then you really don't have to pay. Not that you don't have to pay for anything, but you pretty much have no co-pays or anything like that. But for everybody else on, Medicare or, private insurance, I've never had private insurance. I believe they have to pay out of pocket too. But like for pretty much everybody else who has to pay for their care, their medical expenses, they have to sacrifice, a lot in order to pay off these debts, their hospital bills, and that figure could be in the thousands. It could be even higher than that, in the hundreds of thousands. Medical care is very expensive in this country, as pretty much everybody knows. And I mean, if you compare our healthcare system to other countries around the world, we're pretty much the worst, and we're ranked among the worst because of this issue, because of the high cost of healthcare, and the fact that it really shouldn't be that way. If you compare it to other countries that are a lot more happier and healthier because they don't have to pay an arm and a leg just for, even the simplest procedures can be in the thousands of dollars. So yeah, that's what I know about our healthcare issue. That pretty much sums everything up. People are mostly complaining about the cost of it than anything else. Now, as far as all these people that are talking about that don't have health, that aren't insured at all, I could never really understand that. That's the access part of it, the access to health insurance. What I did when I got off of my parents' health insurance, I, I was basically uninsured for a while until, I decided to just, have my, get my own insurance, like, get covered. Um, and let's see. Um, I don't know how long have I, because I remember when Obamacare, like when they pretty much forced everybody to like get some sort of healthcare plan. I'm not sure if I like did. I'm not sure if I was insured at that time, but anyway, the point is eventually I got insured myself. It wasn't that difficult of a process. It just takes some, searching on my part. Filling out forms and doing interviews and stuff like that, um, to make sure I'm eligible and check all that stuff. Then I got on Medicaid. So as far as the access part of it, I mean, unless I know there was like a lot of people who don't have access to technology that other has, that makes the process a lot easier, like a laptop or even a phone, that you need to sign up for these plans. It might Then I could see that's where access could be a problem. But for everybody else, who has the technology to access these things, there really is no excuse for you not to be uninsured. That for you to be uninsured. So that's the part where I'm confused about. But as far as the cost is concerned, we're on the same page with that.
It's the government's role in finding a way forward. The second Republican debate rolls on from senior.
And I forgot to mention, it's not just like the hospital bills, but it's just the medication also. And some of this is like life-saving medication that people need to take every day or often, and they don't have. If they can't afford their medication, then they'll die without it. So for those patients, um, it's just really unfortunate. They have all of these costs that are added on top of each other, where it just eventually becomes completely unattainable and unaffordable to like get any kind of medical care anywhere. So yeah, I think they mentioned medication, but that's another issue. Um, yeah, and then there's the issue with some hospitals and some facilities not accepting your insurance, and so you have to like search all over the place to get care. So yeah, I've run into that issue several times. But fortunately, I didn't have any like life-threatening, medical emergency or condition where I was turned down. It was like something a lot more minor, but there are people worse off than me, um, that need attention and they can't get it because the place doesn't accept their health insurance. So yeah, it's a lot of factors that go into play here.
An informed patriotism is what we want. And are we doing a good enough job teaching our children what America is and what she represents in the long history of the world?
Okay. Let's see if they're gonna go to an ad. Yeah, an ad. Seems like they're like just they're revisiting some of the topics that they talked about in previous debates. See if they'll get into anything new. Or move
So
on
that
to.
there's competition. We need to move all the programs from the federal government down to the states and let states decide what education looks like in their states. And we need to start building things in
Okay.
America again. Let's put vocational classes back in our high schools and let's get our kids building the things that we know.
In the Air Force One Pavilion for the second Republican debate. And let's get back to our questions, Governor Haley. American students, they are in academic trouble. They have lower scores in math and reading. There's chronic absenteeism, that's at record highs. And this has even been called education homicide. You say school choice is the answer, but South Carolina, your home state, still has not enacted universal school choice, and even the current expansion won't be fully implemented until 2027. Parents can't wait 4 years for a fix. So what would you do right now?
Well, in school.
I'm sorry. I mean, I've talked about education on my channel plenty of times, but I mean, school choice. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. Like, the state shouldn't really decide where your child goes to school. The parents should be able to decide that. Because the state really doesn't know their child's learning abilities. They don't know their learning struggles. They don't know that child. They don't know all the children in that state, like the parents do. They know their child more. So they should have the power more than the states over where their child decides to go to school. Doesn't make sense for the state to make that important decision. So yes, school choice. But I mean, as far as the other issues you mentioned, the chronic absenteeism, the low testing scores in reading and math, could also be in science. I think like across the board in these core subjects, students are like really failing in. I think it's worse than what she mentioned here, but yeah, I mean, besides the school choice, we just need to fix the schools in general, the school structure, the system, the curriculum. All of that needs to be completely reformed before anything else, because kids aren't going like if teachers are going to be talking about um, the stuff they've been talking about, like um, you can decide your own gender, like, and everything is racist, and all of these quote unquote woke um, classes. Kids aren't really. I mean, I don't know what kids are into these days, but I'm pretty sure it's not that, especially when it's being bombarded over and over and over again. And you're not teaching them things that is going to help them in real life. Um, or if, um, I also believe the structure needs to be a lot more strict on the school policies, need to be a lot more strict. I don't know like what their policies are today for like absenteeism. Um, I don't know if like that is acceptable or allowed in schools today. Um, I mean, when I was a student, if you missed a certain number of days, the parents were eventually contacted, and then they were inquired as to why is your child missing so many days in school, why are they late all the time, etc., etc. The school would get involved and ask these questions. Um, so I don't know if that still happens, because I'm pretty sure if it did happen, then the child wouldn't, not be in school all these times, like missing school. It also wouldn't happen if the parents were more involved too. If they cared about their child's education and cared about them being in school all the time and learning, and not being tardy and absent, then that also wouldn't be an issue. Um, So yeah, and then as far as test scores, I mean, those have been in the toilet for many years now. I mean, America is just ranked really low in education compared to the rest of the countries in the world, and it's still bad. And that's where it starts with the school structure. So yeah, we can have school choice, but the overall problem is the system itself. It needs to be completely changed and reformed, or else nothing's gonna nothing's gonna improve.
This isn't the only answer, but I'll tell you, it's not out of a lack of trying that we didn't try and get school choice in South Carolina. What I'll tell you, first of all, is we have to acknowledge the fact that 67% of our eighth graders are not proficient in reading or math. Over 80% of our eighth graders aren't proficient in history or civics. And recently they came out and said our 12 and 13-year-olds are scoring at the lowest levels they've been scoring in reading and math in decades. So the first thing we've got to do is we've got to make sure we catch our kids back up. We have to make sure they can read. A child that can't read by third grade is 4 times less likely to graduate high school. We need to do reading remediation. We need complete transparency in the classroom. No parent should ever wonder what's being said or taught to their child in the classroom. We need to make sure that we have school choice so that there's competition. We need to move all the programs from the federal government down to the states and let states decide what education looks like in their states. Right. And we need to start building things in America again. Let's put vocational classes back in our high schools, and let's get our kids building the things that we know that we can make. When we start to focus on that and really bring in that parental involvement, that's when we'll start to see a difference. But we've got to get parents back included. We've got to quit spending time on this DEI and CRT and instead focus on financial literacy, on digital literacy, and on making sure that our kids know what they need to do to have the jobs of the next generation.
On the subject of education, a question for Governor Christie. Students in your state are getting high marks on their report cards, but minorities are not doing well with math and reading. Black and Hispanic students averaging 29 points lower than white students in New Jersey. Would you address minorities first?
You have to address all students. And look, in our state, Stuart, frankly, before I was governor, that gap was close to 50%. And what we did was institute more charter schools and more Renaissance schools and more public school choice in New Jersey with innovative solutions in cities like Camden, where now we took what was the worst school district in America during my time, and we have now increased that by nearly 40%.
Okay, we need to focus on all students, but the students who are really struggling, that's who you want to place more attention on, obviously. I mean, if you want them to, get up to the level with their peers, then not all students learn the same. Some need more special attention than others. So to treat all students the same, that's not going to get you anywhere. So yeah, of course, focus on all students, but the ones who are being left behind and ones who are struggling to catch up with their peers, they're the ones who you want to place more emphasis, more attention on, so they can get where they need to be. Because if you continue to ignore them, then it's gonna stay the same. So they need more motivation than others. They need more. They need more attention than others. They just need more attention. So.
Their proficiency. It can be done when you give people choice. But let's tell the truth to everybody about what this is. This public school system is no longer run by the public. It is run by the teachers' unions in this country. Randi Weingarten and her crew are absolutely strangling. They are taking the worst of their members and defending them rather than advocating for our kids. And when you have the President of the United States sleeping with a member of the teachers union, there is no chance that you can take the stranglehold pulled away from the teachers union every day. They have an advocate inside the White House every day for the worst of their teachers, not for our students to be the best they can be. A president of the United States has to take on the teachers union. I did it in New Jersey, and I will do it as president of the United States.
Governor DeSantis, I have a question for you. Governor DeSantis, I have a question for you. Florida's new Black History curriculum says.
Okay, so we're gonna pause here. We are about an hour into the debate. We got another hour left. So it's like 6:30 right now. I don't really think I have the energy to do another 30 minutes. I'm probably gonna stop it here just for today. Upload these 2 parts, and then I'll see if I can, if my computer doesn't stop on me again like it did today, then I can get another 2 parts in. So in total will be about 6 parts or however many. But we're gonna get through the rest of this debate, just not today. We're gonna do it in sections, like in parts. So I hope you did enjoy these other 2 parts. I got part 3 and 4. So yeah, I guess we're gonna pick up next time with education again. But yeah, this is the end of part 4.